Welcome to chapter 47, book of Ezekiel. We are now going out from the inside of the temple, and we're going to see what comes forth. It says, "And he brought me unto the thresholds of the house." Now, exactly what a threshold is, before the door, prothera, before the door, and behold, Ethor, hydro, water, comes from that word, went forth from beneath the open space of the house according to the east. So someplace out here, apparently, that he is going open space of the house according to the east. For the front of the house looked according to the east, and the water went down from the south of the house of the right unto the south of the altar. Now, south of the house of the right and to the south of the altar. So the south of the altar, it would be, the altar is over here. So somehow water went down out of that area. But it says the south of the house of the right. Got me. And he led me according to the way, the Odon of the gate according towards the north, and led me by the way outside to the gate of the courtyard looking towards the east. So he now is going to go out from the north, and he comes around to the east. And behold, the water carried down from the right side. So the right side, what I would imagine would be someplace comes out over here. I'm not sure. And there was a man exiting, Exodus. We have the book of Exodus, an exiting of the children, sons of Israel. Right opposite, and a measure was in his hand. The measure would probably have been the 9-foot long reed that was mentioned at the beginning of the 40th chapter. And he measured 1,000. 1,000 reeds would have been 2 miles. So, and he went through in the water. The water of release is what it's called. And he measured 1,000. Another 1,000, it would be 2 miles, and went through the water unto his knees. So now he's 4 miles. And he measured another 2 miles, 6 miles, and went through the water unto his loins. And he measured another 1,000, 8 miles, and was not able to go through any more, for the water overflowed as the impetus of a rushing stream, of which shall not be passed over. So here he has gone down 8 miles to finally you couldn't cross over the stream. And he said to me, and now this stream is going towards the east, as we mentioned, right here, when it hasn't mentioned, we're going to go into that here. And he said to me, "Do you see, O son of Anthropu?" And he led me and returned me unto the edge of the river. And in my turning, and behold, upon the edge of the river were exceedingly many trees on this side and that. So all these trees reminds me of when I was in Brazil, a city of Lorena. I don't know, it wasn't. It was another city. But anyway, we went, and there was a river in this town, and trees on both sides of the river just hanging down like banana trees. Really beautiful. So here is something like that, all these trees. And he said to me, "This Ethor, this water going forth unto Galilee towards the east." So the temple had to have been on the high mountain east of Galilee, which would have made it, as we mentioned earlier, Mount Meron, and it went down into the Lake of Galilee, and it goes down unto Arabia, because that's where the Jordan comes out of the Galilee, goes all the way down unto Arabia, and comes as far as unto the Thalason, the sea. That would be the Dead Sea, because that's where it goes. And unto the water of the outlet. So it was coming out, and it shall heal the waters. Igiasi, hygiene comes from that word. You can add that to your English derivatives book. It shall heal the waters. And it will be for psyche, life, psychology, psyche, of a zone of living creatures. Zoo comes from that. Swarming upon all, upon whichever the river should come, there shall live. So this river comes, it's talking about the Jordan River. So the Jordan's coming down into that Dead Sea, and it's bringing life, fresh water. The Dead Sea was a salt sea, and people would go there, and you could float on top of it, just sit in it, and you would float without even trying. I went to the Salton Sea, which is in Southern California, with my son years ago, and when he was probably around 9 or 10 years old. And around these salting seas, a lot of the fish and so forth die because of the impurities that are there. And the Salton Sea had some type of it's a fungus or a condition, caused thousands and thousands of fish to die. And we were fishing in the ocean. We had our fishing poles in the trunk, and I saw these dead fish on the side of the sea. And I told my son, I said, Charlie, I said, grab the fishing pole. So he got his fishing pole. So he put all these dead fish on the line. There's like 15, and he's holding it where the pole's bent over with this grin on his face, knowing this is a joke, and that he didn't catch anything. But that is pretty precious. But that was the Salton Sea. So this is a salty sea. Nothing had been growing there. You can buy things from the Dead Sea mud for your face and other things. Salt, I believe. And there will be there exceedingly many fishes. Ichthys, that is a word for fish. Ichthyology has to do with studying of fishes. And ichthys, the early Christians, the reason they used that fish, the thing that looked like a fish diagram, and then inside of it they would have this ichthys in Greek. And what it meant is Jesus Christos, Son, Theos, God, Son, Savior, Sotir, Eos, Theos, Jesus Christ, Christos, Jesus. That's where it comes from. So there are many fish, for this water is come there, and it shall heal, make it clean, and shall enliven. Now, whether it has healing properties, it may very well have been. That's what it says. But I'm not exactly sure if that'd be for humans or just giving life to the animals and the fish and so forth. So everything upon whichever the river should come, there shall live. And fishermen shall stand there from En-gedi to En-eglaim. Now, En-gedi, we know it's on the Dead Sea. The Eglaim, we don't know where exactly it's at. Let me see if I can find this map here. Here's the Dead Sea, and En-gedi would be right over here, right in the middle of the Dead Sea on the coast on the western side. So that was the bottommost city that's mentioned here is En-gedi, unless Eglaim was further on down, which we don't know where that is. And it shall be for a refreshing of drag nets. It will be by itself, and its fishes will be as the fishes of the great sea, the Mediterranean, an exceedingly great multitude. So if you want to become a fisherman, successful, and go to En-gedi and buy some property. And in the outlet, and in its turning, and in its overflowing, in no way shall they heal. They have been given for salt. So there we see the salty sea. And its outlet going down further south, apparently, because it goes into the Negev. And we know that in the Negev, I'm not sure what the, I was going to put the link to there, but well, the Negev, it mentions, here it is in 2046, that the Negev, everything south of the Negev, when you go into the Negev, everything south of that will be destroyed. Let me go find that and put this on hold. So here in 2046 it says, O son of Anthropu, firmly fix your face against Teman, and look upon Deror, and prophesy against the grove leading to Negev. So it's actually a little bit north, but it's, and you shall say to that, Beersheba was close to that area. And you shall say to the grove of Negev, hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord, behold, I kindle in you a fire, and it shall devour in you every green tree and every dry tree. The flame being lit shall not be extinguished, and every face from the east wind into the north shall be incinerated by it. So all will die. And all flesh shall realize that I am the Lord. I kindled it, and it shall not be extinguished. So there we have the Negev. So south of the En-Gedi is going to be basically not part of Israel, as we are going to see here as we go into the boundaries. But but everything that shall come and live, and so we go down and then we go and start up in 12, and it says, and by the river shall ascend by its edge on this side and that side every edible tree. In no way shall anything be old upon it, nor shall its fruit fail. So the river that went down, shall its fruit fail, nor shall its fruit fail of the newness of it. It shall put forth first, for their waters are from out of the holy place. These waters go forth, and their fruit will be for food, and their ascending parts for health. And I'm not sure if that means the leaves, possibly. There are some trees that do have healing medicinal purposes in the leaves, and that could be what he's talking about right here. Now we'll go to the borders, and they're very interesting here. As we see the borders, they're not the same as we see today. And thus says Kyrios Theos. These are the Oria. Horizon comes from that Greek word. These are the borders you shall inherit of the Gees. The geology comes from that. For the Dodeca, 12, Duodeca, 2 and 10, tribes, Philes, we have a phylum, of the sons of Israel, the 12 tribes, in addition of a piece of measured out land. And you shall inherit it, each as his brother. Now I looked at that, each as his brother. Some people would make the different lands, some of them larger and other ones smaller. A friend of mine believes that goes back to the original percentage back in the time of the Exodus. If one tribe was way larger, it had more land than the other, but I don't see that. I see it the opposite, because it says here, each has his brother, which to me means each would be equal, but I may be wrong. In which I lifted my hand to give to their fathers. And this land shall fall to you by inheritance. Now, the tribes are delineated. Now, it fall to you by inheritance. Like, apparently that means the people then for those lands will continue inheriting in those sections or in tribes. And these are the borders of the land towards the Voron. We have the Aurora Borealis, Bora comes from that, the northern lights. From the Great Sea, which is the Mediterranean, the way of Aethelon. Now, before we go into this, the borders of the north, I'd like to read in Genesis 15:18, it says concerning Abraham, and that before he was called Abraham, in that day the Lord, that's Yahweh, ordained a covenant of Abram, saying, to your seed, I will give this land, from the river of Egypt unto the river of the great Euphrates. Genesis 15:18. So we know that God's giving the land all the way up to the great Euphrates. Now here, the northern, the Great Sea, which is on the left, the way of Aithalon, which only is mentioned here, no one knows where it's at, of the entrance of Zedad, which is mentioned in Numbers 34:8, and Hamath, which is the key, because we know Hamath and the entrance to Hamath is up far north. Let's go to our map here. So Hamath is up here. Now, Carchemish, here's the Euphrates right here. It goes around and it comes up to Carchemish. Now, the entrance of Hamath is what it mentions later is, I believe, here, these are the Amanus mountains, and then the gate of Amanus goes through there, and it's mentioned by Strabo, the geographer at the time of Christ, as the way to go into Syria. So I would think, and then Nebuchadnezzar came up to Carchemish, and he probably went down that way. So and these are all roads from the Fertile Crescent that went across. From down here, Nebuchadnezzar came around and down into Egypt. So here we have the northern, here's the closest place to Israel where it would be north, would be straight across. And right here, it doesn't have it on the map, but is Aleppo, city of Aleppo. So let's say that would be the northernmost part, I believe, up here, north of Hamath, because it has the entrance of Hamath. Now, I don't think the entrance of Hamath is from the south, because it's all a flat plain. So wouldn't be any reason for calling it that. It's just a flat plain. Generally, when you have an entrance, something is on blocking the way, and you can see right here it comes down, and so that could have been right here the gates of Amanus, it mentions in Strabo. So with that, we'll go back to our text, and then it has Berothah, only mentioned here, Sivraim, only mentioned here in the places between the limits of Damascus, which is further south, in Syria, and between the limits of Hamath, the courtyards of Hadakon, which we don't know what that is, some place south of Damascus, which are upon the limits of Hauran, and Hauran is mentioned in Wiki, so you can go into Wiki and read about that place. These are the borders from the sea, from the courtyard of Enan, the limits of Damascus and the places towards the north. And the limits of Amanus is called the mountain, so with the alpha, and King James have Hamath, it's Amath in the Greek, and the places towards the north. And the places towards the east, between Haran, the Avranitidos, of the place of the Haran, basically what it is, and between Damascus and between Gilead, which is now getting down into Israel, and the land of Israel, the Jordan separates unto the sea. That sea I'm not sure if that's talking about the Dead Sea or if it's talking about the Great Sea. It doesn't say the Great Sea, and the other place it mentions the sea is the Dead Sea. So that may be the Jordan separates unto the sea. So it goes south towards the east of Palm Grove, which is not mentioned. We have no idea where this is, and it's not in the Hebrew. These are the borders towards the east. And these are the borders towards the south and southwest from Teman. Now exactly where Teman and Palm Grove is not mentioned in the Hebrew, unto the water of Mariboth, Kadesh. And now we're getting down into the Negev below. Mariboth, Kadesh, you can read that in Wikipedia, reaching forth unto the great sea. That would be the Mediterranean. This part is the south and southwest. The southwest would be over towards, let's go to the map. The south. So now we're down here at the bottom. And the En-Gedi was down here, and exactly where Meraboth. But if you go across here, you'll get to the great river Nile. So that would be the southernmost part of Israel, because the Negev, all down here, has all been irradiated, and who knows what. It's been burnt up. And then Edom over here, it mentions another place in Ezekiel. It's also the same thing. Nobody can inhabit Edom, which is all down here. So Israel's southern border would be someplace across at the bottom of the Dead Sea, towards where they could go across to the Nile, straight across. That's the way I see it. Now I'm using the text here as my proof of what it is. Now, it says, this part of the Great Sea defines the bounds unto before the entrance of Hamath unto its entrance, the entrance of Hamath. So that would be that part, I believe, north of Hamath. These are the borders towards the west. And you shall divide this land to them. So up to the north that was talking about, go back to the map. Here's the west, and here's Hamath, and there's that part. Still the Mediterranean, the Great Sea, is there on the west. And you shall divide this land to them, to the tribes of Israel. And we'll get into that division in the next chapter, the last chapter of the book, 48. And you shall cast it by lot to yourself and to the foreigners sojourning in your midst, whomever engendered sons in your midst. So some type of a lot will be given to the people where parts they can have. And they will be yours as native born among the sons of Israel. So these people, the foreigners, proselytes, I should have highlighted that. Proselytes comes from that. The foreigners. And they will be as your native borns among the sons of Israel. With you they shall eat by inheritance in the midst, the mesoderm, the middle skin and part of the skin. Derm is skin. They shall eat by inheritance in the midst of the tribes of Israel. And they will be in the tribe of converts, in the converts with them. Now, who those people will be, when that's going to be, I believe it's after the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple, where a new temple will be built here on Mount Meron, as we'll go into the next chapter and I'll show you. And therefore, the people that are there outside will still be sinning. There'll be sacrifices. I believe that this will be during the 1,000 years, the reign of Christ. But the reign of Christ, the 1,000 years, I don't believe, doesn't say it's on earth anywhere in the book of Revelation. It says that it's where the dead are there. They'll rise. So to me, that doesn't sound like the earth. I don't think a bunch of dead people are going to rise and live there. So I believe the dead are going to be risen and be with Christ wherever he's at, but it's not going to be on earth during the 1,000 years. But the 1,000 years will be there, and that period of time will be when this new holy city is, we'll find out the name of it at the end of the next chapter. The holy city will be there, and then Satan will be bound during that period of time that this temple exists until he's released for a short period of time. And then when he comes out, he will come against the holy city, which I believe is this city here, not Jerusalem. And then he will battle, but he will be destroyed. And then the time of the New Jerusalem will come down, and the people on earth will see it. And I believe then there'll be nations that says they'll be sending their gifts to the New Jerusalem and so forth. Whether this city and the people there are still around at the time the New Jerusalem comes down, it would be conjecture on my part. but I'll conjecture. I think the good chance that the city will be there. And there you shall give an inheritance to them, says the Lord God. So, the 48th chapter, stay tuned. It's interesting. We'll find out the boundaries of the tribes and show it to you on a map, and Mount Meron, the holy city, and talk about that. Hope you'll join us in the last chapter of Ezekiel, and God bless.